and I mean this in a very good sense, is that you give us slivers of that. You don't give us a scene, or you don't give us a like shots even. It's almost like flashes of memory are happening rather than like an entire event being remembered. I think that's quite unique actually.
That sort of becomes from an edit point of view.
Yeah.
I think most of us, we look at the scene and we say we just need something more over here.
Prashanth Neel has now become an overwhelmingly applauded creative entity in the world of modern Indian cinema. With just 3 feature films, he has not just taken the box office by storm but also received appreciation from almost every legendary Indian storyteller. Now, amongst all the accolades that he has received, the one aspect of his filmmaking that gets appreciated and noticed the most is his editing style. And also, I feel that the art of film editing has recently received a lot of welcoming limelight. With every film that comes out today, either in theaters or on OTT, you will now mostly see how the viewers take notice of editing and share their comments on the same. We can confidently say that the cinema of Prashanth Neel is one of the biggest reasons why the audience is exposed even more to the art of assembling the film footage to tell a story. Just remember the word assembling because we will get back to it in just a moment. Like many of you, I have been fascinated with his creative editing choices right after watching KGF Chapter 1. I was first introduced to that film when Bahubali had already impacted Indian and international audiences in 2018. And to be very honest, KGF Chapter 1 went beyond my expectations, and since then I have been fascinated with the editing style of Prashanth Neel's cinema. So this video essay is an attempt to deconstruct and try to understand how the editing choices in his films are influencing the emotional impact attached to his narratives. I will be talking about how he uses cathartic crosscuts in his filmmaking to achieve some amazing cinematic experiences. So in order to explain the choice of my words to describe his editing style, we will first need to go back in time and understand the history of film editing and talk about the evolution of cinematic storytelling that was fueled by the creative geniuses of probably the most revered names in the history of cinema in the world, and they are Lev Kuleshov and Sergei Eisenstein. So during the Lenin regime, Russia founded the world's first film school called VGIK, or Moscow Film School, in 1919 to promote cinema as a medium of spreading the ideology of the government and gaining political influence. But during the period, it was hard to find film stock in Russia to make films from scratch due to limits on imports. Since Russia could not manufacture film stock on its own, the Moscow Film School became a learning ground for students to understand the art of filmmaking by watching films from other countries like America. In fact, they did not just watch them but reconstructed and recreated the idea behind those films by cutting and assembling their reels again under the supervision of Lev Kuleshov, a professor at this film school. He is remembered as one of the visionaries in the world of cinema because of how he invented a new way to assemble film stock that has been referred to as the Kuleshov effect since time immemorial. To summarize the Kuleshov effect, you can assemble 2 different scenes together to derive a third meaning. And this exact methodology of cutting a film turned into a theory known as the Soviet montage. Montage comes from a French word that means assembling, and even today we will witness a lot of stories utilizing this technique of montage. Some even go to the extent of assembling and cross-cutting more than 2 different shots together to derive the ultimate emotional interpretation of the story. But wait, what about Sergei Eisenstein then? Well, he is that legendary filmmaker who significantly demonstrated the true potential of Soviet montage with his films like Battleship Potemkin, Strike, Ivan the Terrible, and more. And trust me when I say this, their films are still taught in film schools across the globe, including India, because of their revolutionary use of cross-cutting between different scenes to establish a third meaning. Now, if you have been following till now, I think we have established the origin of cross-cutting and assembling footage to generate an emotional response in the process of filmmaking. This gives us more context to understand Prashanth Neel's heavy inclination to use cross-cuts. Let us now look at the climax of KGF Chapter 2 to understand how the usage of crosscuts impacts the overall emotional journey of the characters and binds the audience with the progression of the narrative. The reason why I am picking up this scene is because it is a great example of using overtonal montage in your films. As per the Soviet montage theory, films are able to convey their true meaning and emotional impact with the way their different shots are cut together in terms of order, duration, repetition, and rhythm. The cuts should be visible and not hidden. That is why you are always able to experience that change of pace and start feeling differently because of how various shots are assembled to construct the architecture of the sequence. This technique is called discontinuity editing, and it has become a staple storytelling choice for Prashanth Neel's cinema. Discontinuity editing is made possible with the help of 5 different montages. There is an intellectual montage, which means juxtaposing 2 unrelated images or shots to create a third meaning. Tonal montage, which means assembling 2 or more shots together that have similar thematic qualities to establish and convey the psychological meaning. Metric montage, which means cutting by a specific frame. And then we have rhythmic montage, which means cutting a shot to the music beats. And lastly, we have overtonal montage, which combines all forms of montage to convey something totally different and abstract. And this is what we witness happening in the climax of KGF Chapter 2. The climax comprises of 8 different scenes from the film. The narration of Vijayendra, Ramika Sen signing the death warrant, Ramika and Raghavan overlooking the death warrant sanction, the residents of KGF evacuating their homes, Rocky escaping with the gold in this ship, the armed forces raiding and attacking KGF, and Rocky's mother Shanti saving her son to serve a great purpose. Let us now try to dissect the assembly of these scenes to achieve the climax. And I'm really sorry, but I will have to pause on different occasions to avoid copyright. So in case there are some details that you don't remember about this scene, I request you to please go and watch this scene and then come back and continue watching this video essay.
How do you make that choice? Illi bada, we will just hold it for some time, stretch it for some time, add 2-3 more elements, and then break into the big juncture.
I think that's an editing call and a music call also. I don't know how many people get this opportunity to make the movies like I am making, where you edit, you take it to the music director and then re-edit again for the music.
We start with Vijayendra explaining to Deepa that
I told you earlier, there was only one person who could bring down KGF, and that was Rocky himself.
this is after Rocky had entered the Parliament House and shot Guru Pandyan in front of Ramika Sen. Now we will notice a series of quick crosscuts to show how the army starts marching to raid KGF on Ramika's orders. Then we crosscut to Rocky mourning the death of his wife and child. Soon there is a J cut to continue the dialogue audio of Ramika Sen as a voiceover.
जो कोई भी बीच में आए तो उसे मार दो, चाहे तो सबको खत्म कर दो.
But you will notice that there is an extra emphasis put on this moment of loss. This is an example of a thematic montage to establish the loss of love for the character of Rocky. As he orders his men to get ready with guns, we cross-cut back to Ramika giving her orders, and we cross-cut between the army choppers and Rocky's men in KGF holding the guns. This helps in building the tension about what is going to happen next. We cut back to Ramika signing the warrant and then again to the army in KGF. As the character of Harish Rai crosses them, we see how the armed men are actually protecting the civilians of KGF, and the same gets confirmed with a crosscut to a voice from the radio at Ramika's office and Raghavan's control room.
Civilians are not engaging. It looks like they're all evacuating KGF.
The pacing of this scene has already been established and the tension continues to rise. We cut to the shots of the civilians evacuating KGF. Once again, we switch to a thematic montage of how the army raids KGF and eventually enters Rocky's mansion. And this is where the fun begins. We cross cut to Ramika and also to Rocky, who's getting dressed. The army is inside the mansion and searching for Rocky, while Raghavan is also following the raid. The anticipation of whether Rocky will get caught gets heightened by the quick crosscuts between him dressing up, the army breaking the doors, and Ramika waiting anxiously to catch the biggest criminal, the biggest businessman, and the biggest national issue. Sorry, I got carried away. The action continues with the cuts, but when the doors open, Rocky is not there, and the gold is also gone. So now the question arises,
Where is he gone?
as we dip to black, the sound of a radio transmission kicks in from a completely different location.
This is Captain Surya Pratap, commanding officer of INS Indrajit, doing training drills in the Indian Ocean.
Once again, the art of assembling footage using crosscuts is about to reveal something epic. The question that lingers in the minds of the audience and the characters is about to be answered. With a series of quick crosscuts, we get to know that Rocky is in the Indian Ocean. And now see this. This is a great example of a rhythmic montage that is cutting on the beat. The cuts switch from the army commander, Ramika, Raghavan, and then back to Ramika. And then the exact location of Rocky is revealed. Now, everything in this frame is something that we just saw a couple of cuts ago. The makers of the film used montage to give a glimpse of what could possibly be the current location of Rocky. We thought that he might be inside the mansion, waiting to welcome the army in his own way, but in reality, he escaped the mansion and he was riding a ship. The voiceover of Vijayendra kicks in to tell us how Rocky was escaping with all the gold in KGF. Once again, with a series of crosscuts, we realize how Rocky is actually moving towards the Indian Navy ship, while the other ships are also starting to surround him.
उसने यही फैक्स अमेरिकन्स और इंडोनेशियंस को भी भेजा है।
Turn around the ship!
वो भी रॉकी के शिप की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं।
We cross cut to Ramika following the message from the fighter jets about civilian evacuation at KGF.
All the civilians have been cleared from KGF. The armed forces are also marching out of KGF now. Begin secondary incursion. It's a go for the MiG-23s to take...
So on one hand, we don't see any form of revolt, and on the other hand, we see a direct challenge to confront the armed forces. The crosscuts keep showing how the armed forces are waiting for confirmation from Ramika to attack KGF and Rocky's ship. And then she says,
Do it.
but this is not how this epic story of Rocky is supposed to end, right? Now we cross cut to the past when Rocky's mother is taking her son to the hospital despite heavy rains. And the moment we get this dialogue,
कुछ लोग गुलाम बन के ही सही 100 साल जीना चाहते हैं, लेकिन कुछ लोग एक दिन भी जिए तो सुल्तान की तरह जीना चाहते हैं.
it is time for another crosscut. The rain and lighting help to match the scenarios of both these scenes. And the dialogue is also telling us how Rocky cannot die without fulfilling the promise. We have now witnessed the use of, which I believe is intellectual montage to elevate this moment of Rocky's Judgment Day. The song in the background reminds us of how that one promise became Rocky's biggest emotional motivation throughout his journey. Both him and KGF are just shy of a rocket to be destroyed in seconds. The voiceover of Vijayendra serves as a reminder of these two events.
उस दिन दो घटनाएं घटी, वो जगह भी खत्म हो गई और वो भी.
But just when you think of the obvious, you are proven wrong, because there is a ninth scene that will be included as a crosscut to mark the fulfillment of Rocky's promise to his mother. And this is when you reach a moment of catharsis. That one feeling, that one emotional experience that unites this entire assembly of shots is catharsis. It is a feeling of relief that you experience upon receiving emotional satisfaction. And this is the reason why I feel that the real secret of Prashanth Neel's cinema is the use of cathartic crosscuts.